Hey, and thanks for watching THV11 News at Noon. I'm Michael Aaron. It is a beautiful Thursday afternoon. Corrales has a look at your forecast. Plus, COVID cases are thankfully on a decline across the country, and the White House wants Americans to start thinking about how we can go forward living with COVID-19, but also finding a new normal. Little Rock City leaders trying to focus on the root causes of crime in the capital city, and local advocates say the solutions start with asking for help. And a new exhibit at a local hospital hopes to provide light during a dark time with a small handmade symbol of healing. As promised, meteorologist Corrales Ortiz is over in the Weather Center. Hey, what are you thinking? Are we going to hit 80 degrees today?
Oh, those temperatures are warming up quickly. Behind me, you can probably see the temperatures already in the mid to upper 70s, and it just hit noon. We still have plenty of afternoon to go, so I will not be surprised if you see 80 degrees once again, maybe just a little bit more above 80 degrees in some spots even. So sitting at 76 right now here in Little Rock, and we again seeing the temperatures warm up pretty fast. So I might need to adjust some of these numbers here. I think we very well will see highs around 80 degrees later this afternoon. Lots of sunshine to work with. We do have a different change in that, a different look of the forecast, I should say, by this weekend, because we will still stay warm, but we have more of that wet weather in place for us. That could impact some parts of the Little Rock Marathon weekend. Some days more than others though. So I'll have more details on that and the look at your forecast coming up in minutes.
As COVID-19 cases continue to drop across the state, we're starting to see some changes. The Pulaski County judge has ended COVID restrictions in county buildings. In the executive order, Judge Barry Hyde says that while COVID-19 is still a threat, vaccines and other precautions make restrictions unnecessary. The county is still encouraging mask wearing and social distancing. But with mask mandates being lifted in nearly every state, the White House is releasing a sweeping new plan for the new normal. The strategy is designed to help Americans live with COVID-19 and prepare for any future outbreaks. This comes as COVID cases decline and businesses try to bounce back. Carter Evans has the story.
It's very exciting because we get to see each other's faces.
New York State lifted its mask mandate for public schools Wednesday, and California will follow next week.
It's about time they lift it.
Los Angeles is set to drop its indoor mask mandate Friday for places like restaurants and bars, but some are cautious.
I'm going to continue to wear a mask for my safety.
It's still a contentious topic. This was Florida's governor with a group of high school students on Wednesday.
You do not have to wear those masks. I mean, please take them off. Honestly, it's not doing anything, and we got to stop with this COVID theater. So if you want to wear it, fine, but this is ridiculous.
With COVID cases plummeting nationwide, the Biden administration's strategy is an attempt to move the nation out of crisis mode.
We've reached a new moment in the fight against COVID-19.
The new plan includes access to hundreds of one-stop centers where Americans can get tested and treated with antiviral medication if they test positive, and a promise to deliver updated vaccines and treatments within 100 days of the arrival of a new variant. CBS News contributor Dr. David Agus. Is this the right time for this kind of move?
No question about it. We have a good amount of immunity in the United States, so we are ready to move to that next step. If you were diagnosed with COVID-19, we can give you a pill that can block serious illness and hospitalization, so we really can enable us safely to go back to dropping the masks and going back to a more normal way of life.
Carter Evans, CBS News.
It'll soon be possible to get even more COVID-19 at-home tests, and they're not going to cost you anything. The U.S. Postal Service just announced that starting next week, you can order a second round of free test kits. Just like the first round, you can get 4 tests per order through the USPS website. The Postal Service has already delivered more than 270 million tests. Funeral arrangements are set for the Arkansas Department of Corrections sergeant who was shot and killed earlier this week. Visitation for Sergeant Joshua Caudell is tomorrow from 5 to 7. His funeral will be Saturday at 2:30. Both will be at the family church in Whitehall. In lieu of flowers, the family asks that anyone wanting to give in his memory make a donation to the Joshua Caudell Children's Fund. We have a link right now on thv-at-noon.com. The state Senate approved a big paycheck for law enforcement officers around the state. Lawmakers voted Wednesday to approve a one-time $5,000 payment for certified city and county officers, state probation officers, and parole officers. The legislation sets aside $50 million to make these payments. The measure now heads to the House for a vote. During their weekly crime briefing, Little Rock's mayor and police chief focused on domestic violence. They say it has led to a third of all homicides this year. And as THV11's Ashley Godwin finds out, there are resources available to help those in need.
When you lose a loved one, it is trauma. It's grief like nobody can even believe.
Joyce Rayner is a victim and survivor of violent crime. Her son was murdered. She's turned her pain into experience and motivation to help others as she runs the Center for Healing Hearts and Spirits. The organization provides help for crime victims, including domestic violence survivors.
Most domestic violence cases do not happen overnight. They have been going on for months, sometimes even cases of years.
On Wednesday, the mayor and the police chief spoke about the impact domestic violence is having on the city.
In 2021, our domestic violence unit, the domestic violence advocacy unit, crime victims advocacy unit, worked with well over 4,000 victims.
Out of the 12 homicides we've had this year in Little Rock, 4 of those were because of domestic violence, maybe a spouse, a parent, even a child. Victim Services with the Little Rock Police Department says they see thousands of people come through their doors every year.
Our goal here with Victim Services is just to try and provide whatever help we can.
There are some warning signs that someone may be dealing with an abusive partner or relative, including isolation, financial control, and emotional manipulation.
You know, as a family, friend who may see someone experiencing this, just letting them know that you're there for them.
In Little Rock, Ashley Godwin, THV11 News.
If you need help, or maybe you know someone who does, you can call the Little Rock Police Department Victim Services at 501-918-HELP. They can provide crisis intervention and resources. We have that phone number for you, as well as the list of warning signs right now on thv-at-noon.com. We're now in our second week of war in Europe. While Ukrainians have fought fiercely, Russian forces have now captured their first major city. Skylar Henry is on Capitol Hill with those details and what the Biden administration is requesting of Congress.
A Russian delegation arrived in Belarus for a second round of ceasefire talks with Ukraine. This comes as the battle in Ukraine rages on. Russian forces are trying to cut off Ukraine from its seaports. They've surrounded the city of Mariupol, and they have now taken the Black Sea port city of Kherson.
They're telling people to stay inside.
This video shows Russian soldiers on the streets of Kherson. It's the largest city yet the Russians have captured.
They have made some missteps, and they're working their way through that.
More than 1 million refugees have now fled Ukraine looking for safety, creating a humanitarian crisis. But some Ukrainian expats are actually crossing the border going the other way, headed back home to join the fight. And Ukraine's foreign minister says his country is willing to take anyone who wants to fight for Ukraine in a new foreign legion. The Biden administration is looking to increase its humanitarian and military aid to Ukraine, sending a letter to Congress asking for an additional $10 billion in aid. And they want it passed by next week. There is bipartisan support to approve the aid to Ukraine, but some lawmakers want the president to get even tougher sanctions in place.
One thing we could do that we're not doing is going after the oil and gas sector.
European allies have been reluctant to take those steps because Russia is one of Europe's biggest energy suppliers. But the EU may be softening its stance.
We need to get independent from Russian gas, oil and coal.
The EU said Thursday it's working on new sanctions against Russia if the war in Ukraine gets worse. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Gas prices continue to surge amid the Russia-Ukrainian war. The average price per gallon is now more than $3.65 in America. That's according to AAA. Prices were more than a quarter cheaper last month. Get this, California has the most expensive gas at more than $4.86 a gallon. Here in Arkansas, we have the cheapest, with our statewide average at $3.33 per gallon.
Lord, please be with Ukraine and Ukrainian people. Show them your love and your glory.
That is the prayer of Dr. Katerina Pitchford, a Ukraine native and Central Baptist College professor. She offered it during this morning's Arkansas Leadership Prayer Breakfast at the governor's mansion. The event gathers elected officials, business leaders, faith leaders, and others to pray for our state, nation, and world.
Our nation, our leaders, and our people, we need to come together in times like this and think about what unites us as a nation and as a family.
The breakfast included special prayers for the military, healthcare workers, future leaders, and others. Still to come here on THV 11 News at Noon, a new exhibit at UAMS aims to be a space for healing and hope for all who walk through the hospital's doors. Corrales.
Beautiful shot across downtown Little Rock. Nice to see the blue skies. It's going to change though within the next 24 hours. And as we get into the weekend, although we'll continue to stay warm, we have some showers and some storms to look into. A look at your forecast is coming up.